Hi, I am Ambi Parameswaran, your host for the Brand Equity BE Positive Show, where we talk to young achievers about how they've overcame objections, rejections, and succeeded in their career and in their business. So I'm delighted to welcome Siddhesh Joglekar. Siddhesh Joglekar is a VP marketing of this really successful edtech venture by Jews. In fact, he is a digital native, so to speak. He's worked in Shadi.com, Estate Lister, Readup.com. He's also a highly qualified engineer from BJTI and an alumnus from my own alma mater, IIMCalcutta. So, welcome, Siddhesh. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Always a pleasure, Ambis.
Thank you. So, thank you for joining us on this Be Positive. The show is about how successful people, to be successful, you need to have resilience to bounce back after every setback. So, going on to your stellar professional career, can you tell our viewers something about your early childhood and your early education? How was it?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Mumbai, born and brought up in Mumbai, and very much studied with a state board school. Where I had a great childhood. In the sense that it was not too flashy, but yeah, I had always had the values of education. Both my parents as well as grandmother had real high importance ascribed to education. So at some level, that really set up the foundation for me, in terms of thinking, in terms of planning, in terms of studying, all of that. At the same time, there was always encouragement to do different things, whether it is oratory, whether it is sports, whether it is exploring something new. Yeah, or there was always support, whether it is co-currics or extracurrics. Yeah.
So, were you a very good sportsman in school?
No, I was not a very good sportsman. I tried hard. Effort was always there, but the talent was not really good. Yeah. Otherwise, my school really encouraged sports. We had a solid school team. I studied with IES. IES Hindu Colony, and we had a solid school team. All of that. But yeah, the competition was incredible, and unfortunately, wasn't talented enough to get into the top tier of the, whether it is cricket or badminton or whatever.
And how about then you went to BJTI to do your engineering? How was that experience at BJTI?
Definitely, I think VJTI was a great experience. I think VJTI I've really had a fantastic peer group, had a fantastic time in terms of IT engineering. Was the in thing. I studied IT, got into the depths of it, and there was a significant amount of freedom given to explore. So we have a great alumni base at VJTI. So alumni used to come to campus, talk, share their thoughts and stuff. And also we had, even as students, we could connect to alumni. That was something that was great. I also enjoyed did a lot of co-curricular stuff. Took some PORs, positions of responsibility, and all of that, and had a great time there as well. Yeah.
So anything you can share from that time, any mentor, any alumni who kind of guided you when you were in BJTI?
Definitely, I think during VJTI we had multiple mentors. So definitely, that is the place where I also met Baiju sir. Baiju Ravindran
Wow.
back in 2006 was a CAT teacher, right?
Wow.
And yeah, that was the time when back in 2006 when I was preparing for my CAT. He was taking a small class of 20 students, and I was one of his students. The clarity of thought, his thinking, the way in which he explained concepts was mind blowing back then. And at some level, that interaction in 2006 was one of the big reasons why even I could crack CAT, for example. But and the have been in touch with sir ever since. Yeah.
So he was a what? He was a freelance coach that time, or was he?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
He was taking 7 flights in 7 days back in 2005, 2006, and I was one of his early crop of students.
Wow. So did you work after VJTI, or did you go from VJTI straight to
No, I
Joka?
I, I went straight to IIM Calcutta. Yeah.
Okay.
So
And how was IIM Calcutta from going from VJTI?
Yeah, in fact, IIM Calcutta was actually definitely like I would say three, four steps above in terms of peer group, in terms of level of difficulty, all of that. In fact, for me, it was quite a struggle initially. You know, going from a VJTI to an IIM Calcutta to somehow somewhere where I was an above average student in VJTI, and here I was suddenly very much average, right? And that accepting that became tough. You require significant amount of higher quantity, higher quality of effort to succeed in an IIM. Struggled initially in IIM to cope up with things, but yeah, over a period of time, I could cope up, and thankfully I managed to do decently in IIM.
I mean, it's interesting that that you make mention of this fact that you went like a very good student at VJTI, and you went to IIM Calcutta, and you found that suddenly you're just an average student. That must have been a bit of a shock to you. What went through your mind?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, what happened, Ambi, was, around whatever, in 15 days of finishing my course at VGTI, I was suddenly here at IIM. And in IIM, the maturity that people exhibit, a lot of people came with work experience. A lot of people came with an understanding of a relative grading setup. In VGTI, we had a percentage grading setup. We never had a relative grading setup. Wherein, it was not competitive in the truest sense of the term. Jumping into an IIM, which was a whole different level of competition, different type of people as well, not just freshers, right? Because IIM was also a lot of people who had work ex, had a lot of understanding of what actually happens in an IIM. I was probably the first gen from my family to get into an IIM, and it was hard, 100%. The first trimester at IIM was probably one of my hardest time of my life, I would say.
So
Yeah, it was hard.
in fact, I should tell you this,
Yes.
that I went to IIM Cal like you. I went fresh from IIT Madras. In IIT Madras, I was shall we say, a below average student. So in IIM Cal, I put in a lot of effort in the first term. I put in a hell of a lot of effort, and I ended up topping the class, which my friends could not believe it. How can this guy, uh, who's a kind of an average student, top the class? But then I realized that putting in this much effort is too much, and then I eased off, and then I kind of dropped from number one to number three or number four or whatever. But one of the things which I did realize at that time was some of the students like you who came in, and I remember someone who was a chartered accountant who topped his CA and BCom. He was actually aghast to know that he didn't score as well as some of us in finance. So he said, "How could you?" So I mean, it's a wake up call. I mean, like some people have it when I'm sure some students, some friends of yours had it when they came to VJTI. Saying they think they are catch whiskers and they come to VJTI and they find a guy called Siddhesh, from Matunga or wherever, suddenly, topping the class and saying shit, you know. So this is a kind of a rude awakening, which I think a lot of us have gone through, both positive and negative. Something you remember from VJS, from Joka days, how did you face the challenge? And you said that suddenly you're surrounded with people who had work experience, who probably some of them knew what was management. Some of them may have actually worked in India or abroad. So how did you manage to swim in that Joka waters full of sharks?
See, I mean, first of all, you have, you need to be mentally prepared to, go get into any challenge. At some level, I was to blame for it. I was not prepared in terms of understanding that, hey, this could be something I'm not cut out for directly out of engineering or directly out as a fresher. I should have done probably more homework. But that's obviously, all of this is good in hindsight. What I did was, one was, I started talking to faculty more. I think, one very important thing that happened from between a trimester one to trimester two was, I started talking to faculty more to gain perspective. I think when you are sort of thrown at the deep end of the pool, you need to have some perspective. You need to have some guidance from people who are actually out there to help. And at some level, I was lucky enough to find a lot of faculty whom I had to approach. Obviously, they would not reach out to students, but if I approached them, they were kind enough to spend time to give a perspective. Okay, this is the way in which you approach things. This is the way in which you do things. So for example, right, normally in a VJTI type of a setup, if you do slightly below average in one particular test, then you can still cover up in the next test. But in an IIM, the incremental thing is never works. While you can obviously do better next time, but this today is what counts, and today has you have to make today count. Was a spirit that was new to me. That so I had a mindset change. I had faculty who really helped me in getting my mindset right, and then I could sort of cope up and over a period of time catch up with this.
No,
Obviously, I could not. I still was an average student if you look at my academic progress, but then the kind of networks, the kind of friendship that I built in, I still holding good.
so I think what you said is really very refreshing and eye-opening. So what did the faculty do? I mean, it's great to know this, but what did the faculty do to help you?
I can tell you. So particularly, I had an interest in the marketing setup, right? So I was in touch with say someone like a Professor Agnihotri, Professor Mishra from the marketing team. One thing that they told me was you need to set expectations. So are you going to compete on the finance side type of subjects with a CA who has done finance for like 5 years? Probably not. You have to pick and choose your battles. You have to pick and choose your subjects well. You have to pick and choose the topics that you learn well. And whatever you learn, you need to learn it absolutely thoroughly. Those kind of inputs and insights which are not commonly available, right? Those are the things that help.
It's actually quite refreshing to hear this. That I think all the young people who are watching this show should realize that Siddhesh was smart, that he went actually to the faculty. Yeah. And what is the real truth is, a lot of faculty actually enjoy this interaction, and they enjoy giving this kind of gyan because they also, a lot of faculty have taken up a faculty role because they want to help youngsters become better. So I think it's wonderful that that you spoke to Professor Agnihotri, Professor Mishra, and you still remember them. Yeah. You thank them for whatever they could help you. Any other role model during your BYJU was a role model even before you got into IIM, but any role model at IIM?
So for me the role model, the mentor at IIM was definitely Professor Agnihotri. Worked with him very closely. Fortunately we both came from Mumbai, so that helped us bond. It helped me sort of overcome the language barrier, so to say. It helped, and at some level got my interest in marketing sort of developed in these 2 years with interactions. I wrote a research paper with sir, and I also was part of a small initiative which, in the larger setup, with respect to proofreading a chapter which for a book that he was collaborating with Kotler, the Principles of Marketing book, the Indian version. So yeah, so Professor Agnihotri gave me a lot of opportunities, and was really thankful to him for getting that interest in marketing within me in these 2 years. Really, yeah, he was one person I looked up to.
I think whenever we air the show, I will have to send it to my good friend Prafula Agnihotri, because he's moved to Bombay once again. He's taken over the dean of a B school here. It's very wonderful teacher. I'm very happy to hear this. So that's the other question I had, saying, did you have a mentor? And that's a question you already answered. So your first choice of a job was very interesting. Rediff.com, right?
Yeah.
How did you pick that? You could have got into any other hot company, right?
Yeah, so it was a product of both circumstances as well as choice. So Ambi, our batch had a very, very peculiar kind of a situation. So for us, I was part of the batch of 2007 to 9. So 2008 we had a massive, very, very good pre-placement season for the internships. Yeah, internships went well and all of that. And then one fine day in September 15 or so, I don't remember the exact date, but yeah, it was when Lehman went bust.
Okay.
And after that, there was a massive recession, and there was a big downturn in the fortunes of a lot of sectors. And at that time, lot of established typical regulars at IIMs. They came, either they came in and recruited one or two people, or they did not come in at all. Yeah. And so that gave a lot of my batchmates, in fact a lot of us joined new age companies, and at at below average salary. 2009, we the average salaries and all of that took a hit, definitely. But that also opened up, in hindsight, there's a as a silver lining to it. It also gave me an opportunity in an upcoming sector, which is a great.
So, interesting. So you would not have joined rediff.com but for the slowdown. You might have joined, God knows, Citibank, Bankam, JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, one of those companies.
Not really. I like the internet space, the product management as a role. But yeah, I would have my first preference was still consulting, but consulting nobody was hiring. In very few roles were available.
So McKinsey, Bain, no one came, or they came with very few roles.
Two, three people, rather than the regular uptake.
So let me share a little bit of research which I was reading upon. That in America they've studied, people like you who passed out or graduated during a slowdown.
Yeah.
And what they found is graduates who graduate during a slowdown have an initial impact on their salary.
Yeah.
But in the long term, they more than catch up. And the other important thing, and since we are on a show called Be Positive, what they found was these graduates start with a very realistic expectation on life. And therefore, they are very mature. And they're able to take a lot of hard knocks without being completely blown up, right? So I think in that sense it's done. So probably you joined Rediff, and then also you're an IT engineer, right? So it suited your profile.
No, absolutely. I mean, Ambi, trust me, Rediff was a great choice overall. I learned so much, and a lot of credit to the entire Rediff top, including Ajit Balakrishnan sir, Sumit, Venki sir, all of them, really got me up to pace very, very well. I mean, had a great ball of a time at Rediff, for sure.
So this was what, first 2 years of your career, or
2 years of my career, yes.
Then what did you do? You started something of your own.
Yeah, I just realized that hey, internet is growing, and back then internet was used by 5 crore people, 50 million users, and at some level I understood that hey, internet is there to stay. Now whether it is now, back then I had no clue that mobile will become so big and internet will become so mainstream overall. But I understood that internet is playing a disruptive role. Facebook was growing, and Facebook had bought over Instagram and all of that. So I realized that okay, hey, social networking is good. So can social networking be applied to real estate? That was my starting point, and I was a 25, 26-year-old. I said okay, let me just try this out. So I took this surprising call to a lot of my family and even my colleagues at Reddit. But I tried to start up. Yeah.
So what happened to the estate listed? It was ahead of its time, or what?
No, so I think Ambi, frankly speaking, not ahead of its time. I did not read real estate, the sector then. I knew my internet basics. I knew what needs to be done on internet to succeed. But the other counter sector, which is the real estate sector, I had not done enough research. I think the ball stops at me. I was not prepared. I was not prepared with the mindset, the funding, all of that. The kind of scale that you need to become a player in India. I was sort of I was trying to sort of do something big with a knife. You cannot win a war with a knife. You need the ammunition, you need the plan, you need the team, you need core group of investors who believe in the idea. I was not really equipped with all those other support casts.
But if I remember right, your idea was that it's a location-based real estate agent finder, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then price discovery. And I was trying to do something in price discovery.
Yeah, price discovery. So it was a very interesting app. But interestingly, what you're saying, this entire real estate sector in India, except for Magic Bricks, which is part of the what Times Group, right? None of the others have succeeded. In fact, I wrote an article on Zillow, compared Zillow with what we have in India. And I remember someone from housing.com got in touch and they wanted to talk. And I said, look, Zillow is in a different league, compared to what we have in India. And I think in India, the problem is compound. Like, there is also price discovery is not very clear. And it's a little bit of it's a kind of a murky space, right? So you did Estate Lister for a year or so or more?
Year and a half, yeah, nearly year and a half.
And then you went to Shadi.
Yes.
How did that happen, from estate to Shadi?
No, so I think, at some level, I was in touch with the industry, and I was constantly seeking dialogue. Hey, what can I do? What can I not do? All of that. While doing one such dialogue, the opening sort of came in that, hey, while you are doing this, but you are running out of capital, all of that. So why don't you join us? So yeah, took a measure call that real estate, you need a different type of mindset, capital, investors, patience to get it to become sustainable in real estate, which was something that I lacked, and no harm in admitting that I lacked that back then. So then me and my team decided to take a step back, and we decided to get back into the corporate sector again. And that's where I joined Shadi.com.
How was the Shadi.com experience? That's a very well-funded company, right?
So Shadi.com is also doing very well. I mean, was a great experience. At some level, the discipline that you require, with respect to succeeding as a product professional, I completely attribute that to my Shadi.com experience. Working closely to actually build a digitally successful business. There were very few probably companies that have that kind of scale in the matrimony space as Shadi.
So Shadi.com is it a listed company now?
No, Shadi.com is not listed. But yeah, in that sector, Bharat Matrimony is listed.
Bharat Matrimony is listed, but Shadi.com is a unicorn or getting there?
I would assume that it's a unicorn. They are doing fairly well.
Okay, great. So from Shadi.com, you moved to BYJU's. How did that happen?
So I think for that so one fine day, I was in Bangalore and I just went to catch up with BYJU sir. That, hey, you taught me, and here I am. And he was building something wonderful, and he just talked to me about it, the passion, the thinking, the planning, the team, what that was available, that was getting built was mind blowing. And obviously I had seen him teach, and the content, all the things that he talked about, that whether it is the quality of content, the way in which we teach, the passion with which we teach, the depth of concepts that is required, all of these things then can we then create a product out of it and then take it to masses, which was a very, very appealing concept. And yeah, he said being an early student, he said that I've taught you, so creating a core group of early students as the team, as a core team back then, was part of the plan. And yeah, so he sort of fortunately thought that he should make an offer to me, and I took it up.
Okay, so you joined BYJU's when?
So I joined BYJU's in 2015.
You've been there now for 6 years. Okay, and at that time it must have been a small company, no?
Yeah, of course. We were just setting up, just building ourselves. Yeah, so back then my first job in BYJU's was to create the full chemistry product, the physical chemistry product for 11th and 12th. So now I took up one section, which is physical chemistry.
I think you appeared in some videos also, right? I remember seeing some of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I appeared in videos, taught the lectures, and the mandate given by sir was simple. BYJU sir was simple, that you need to teach the way I taught you. So that and that was the kind of confidence that he had. And yeah, I had to live up to that.
So it's very interesting, yeah. Siddhesh, it's very interesting that you graduated from IIMCal in 2009, and now it's for 12 years.
Yeah.
and in 12 years you only worked in the digital space,
Yes.
right? So any regrets that you've not seen a physical, you've not worked in a physical company?
That's a good one. No, so I don't have regrets. I think I've been fortunate enough to be part of this huge rocket ship. I mean, the digital industry itself has been a rocket ship right since the I joined, and has really wonderful to be in the front row seat for as this rocket ship sort of grew. I think there is still room to grow. We are digitally just getting started. Abhi. Trust me, right now, especially with the current scenario, past 12 months, COVID and everything, you know, I think digital will even become bigger. That's the sense that I'm having.
So if, suppose you were going to be talking to young students at IIMCal, what would you be telling a young Siddhesh? What advice would you give to a young Siddhesh who's going to be graduating in May 2021?
Right. I think most important advice is you need to know what you like. So for example, I was something it was very important that I did something that I like. So I did the role, the mandate, all of that was something that I liked, and then I completely shifted. So in all through IIMCal, I was thinking, hey, consulting is something that I want to go to. But then I fortunately landed in Rediff, and I realized that hey, this is something that I liked, and every day when I wake up, I'm passionate. I'm eager to go to work, solve problems, talk to consumers, understand what are their pain points, and sort of solve their problems at scale. So if you are able to find something like that gets you to wake up and be eager to go to work, then that's the industry that you're looking for, rather than getting into industries that all other friends or colleagues of yours are getting into.
I think
Try
it's
and find one.
fabulous. I think it's a great jump off point for me to say a few things because, in IIMs, definitely in all business schools, there is this obsession with a dream company and a dream sector. I want to work in FMCG. I want to work in consulting. I want to work in funding. I want to work in MNC banking. And you're a kid, right? You don't even know what is what, and you, because of your peer group, you say yeah, consulting, and then you don't get into consulting and you get very disappointed. So that's, in fact, I write about it in my book Spring, that it's important. Well, yeah, you should have a dream that I want to work in this company or in this sector, but don't get obsessed with it. I mean, it's quite okay. Like you, I got rejected by Hindustan Lever and I ended up joining rediffusion advertising, right? And I discovered the world of advertising, and then I built my career there. Just like you did not succeed in consulting, you discovered the digital world, and then you built a fabulous career in the digital world, working in with really marquee companies and helping to build some really successful companies. So I think it's great word of advice that as a youngster, don't get too obsessed about this dream company stuff, which never pans out. Chances are that your dream company is Hindustan Lever. You join Hindustan Lever, after 2 years, you want to rush out because you're sick and tired of, working on the same detergent sachet redesign, which goes on for 2 years, right? So don't get too obsessed. Keep your mind open. So let me ask you, what does it take to be a successful marketing person?
Great. I think Ambi, multiple things obviously, but then I think the most important thing is, you need to develop a pulse for the consumer's mindset. I think that is something that I've sort of realized. And I was a product person till Shadi.com, and as Byju's grew, and Byju sir told me to take up a new challenge. That you're so far done product, now try and get into marketing and set up marketing for us. I think during Shadi.com, as product people, product teammates, we had a culture of talking to consumers, and I think I took that into Byju's as well, and that has helped me in multiple ways. Under getting a pulse for the consumer is very important, because all the things that you do, whether it is communication, whether it is brand, whether it is execution, whether it is, something as simple as setting up a offline strategy, right? You need to have a pulse for the consumer. What is my consumer wanting? What are the needs of the consumer? What are the pain points that I'm trying to solve? Unless you have that pulse, you will not be able to crack it. So the field, going to the field, getting your hands dirty, I think that is the that has helped me in a big way to I would say that is the most important thing.
Okay, so let me ask you. Therefore, what does it take to succeed as in the digital space? You said what it takes to succeed in marketing is that unrelenting focus on the consumer.
Yeah.
So, what does it take to succeed in the digital space?
So I think in digital space, Ambi, you also have one more friend called data. You have understanding, you have a lot of insights from the data piece, wherein the consumer is anyways giving you signals at an almost every nanosecond basis, that okay, this is the way in which I'm going, this is the way in which I'm browsing the app, this is the number of time spent, that amount of time spent that I'm having on the app. All of these things also then add up. I would say you need a consumer focus, you need a consumer thinking and understanding, and then you couple that with data. So in a digital, actually you have a significant advantage, because all the data, all the actions of the consumer get captured, the intent of the consumer gets captured, and whatever you do, you get response within like an hour. With any project that you roll out, at least in the digital space, you get a fair sense of what is happening in a day or two.
Wow. Yeah. So you're saying to be successful in marketing, you need to understand consumers.
Yes.
To be successful in digital, you got to understand data. So you should be
coupled with data.
Yeah, you should be comfortable to be in the deep end of data. Great. So I'm coming to the end of the show. So let me ask a few rapid fire questions. So be ready for that.
Sure.
Right. Who's your role model?
My role model is Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Achha. Oh, wow. Okay. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand.
Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Okay. Hardcore capitalist. Okay, good. One holiday destination you don't mind going to again?
Kanyakumari.
Wow. Where you'll go and meditate on the Vivekananda rock?
Yes. Ambi, trust me, it is one of the most beautiful places in India. I mean, it's in my books at least. At the horizon, you see the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal merging.
Yeah, you can see the two seas merging. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
the colors, the hues, and especially at the sunset, it's quite enthralling.
Great, lovely. One lifestyle or fashion purchase that you're happy about?
Yeah, I think I'm quite happy about the iPhone 4. So back in 2010, there was this fancy new gadget called iPhone 4, and it was just a mind blowing gadget. And then I followed what happened with Steve Jobs and how did he introduce iPhones to the world and stuff. It was also around 2010 was the time when I had some money to spend on all these gadgets. So all that helped. And yeah, ever since have always been a fan of Apple and the way in which they have completely disrupted the tech space.
I'm sure you're aware. You must have read everything about Steve Jobs, that he was hell bent on not launching a mobile phone.
Yeah,
and then his team had to really fight with him for over a year to get him to agree to launch a mobile phone. So great. So last question. Final advice to marketing professionals in not more than 5 words.
Simplicity matters to the consumer.
Simplicity matters to the consumer. Superb. So thank you, Siddhesh. That was a great conversation we had. So thank you very much for coming on the Brand Equity Be Positive show with Ambi Parameswaran. So thank you very much.